My name is Khan Cordice and I'm from the beautiful Twin Island nation of Antigua and Barbuda. I'm affiliated with the CUB Hells Gate Steel Orchestra from Antigua and Barbuda, who's celebrating 80 years this year. I also do some work, with the RBL Exodus Steel Orchestra out of Trinidad and Tobago. I do some work in Guyana as well with Parkside Steel Orchestra and with quite a bit of other people. But most of my work is here with Hells Gate, and I've been the last 3 years spending a lot of time with Exodus. When I first started playing steelpan, well, I did not plan to start playing steelpan. I actually came to the pan yard to Lime. I was 11 years old, just completed common entrance, that's your grade 6 exam, to go into secondary school here in Antigua and Barbuda. So I followed my friend to the pan yard. It was really just something to do. Had no intentions of playing, be honest, but Hells Gate has a policy they call, once you come to the door, somebody will invite you in. And it still happens up to today. I mean, if you come to the pan yard regularly, somebody will say, listen, come and play a percussion instrument, or in the rhythm section, or come and play a steel pan. So that's how I actually started. They invited me. I did not plan to play for Panorama because I was doing the Panorama season. I started learning the song, and I catch myself, I'm on the stage, playing for Panorama that same summer. But that was it for me. I played every summer for Panorama until maybe like 3 years in. Then I joined the regular band, or what we call the stateside. And I was playing with the stateside. I had no intentions of becoming a musician. I wanted to be an accountant. Well, first I wanted to be a police. My dad is a policeman. He's a musician as well. He tried to teach me music, but I wasn't interested. I wanted to be a police. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be something else. Just a businessman, generally. But I think I wanted to be all of those things because that's what society said you had to be in order for you to be successful. So for me, it was just, trying to fulfill whatever society was saying. Until I started playing with the National Youth Pan Orchestra at 16 years old. There I met people like Barbara Mason, Gavin Francis, Lucky Samuel. And though I had a lot of musical sort of education or grassroots education from people like Baron Henry and Stafford Joseph from Hells Gate Steel Orchestra, when I went there, they sort of exposed me to music outside of Antigua and Barbuda, pan, steel band, because I had no clue about what was happening in Trinidad. I had no clue about the greats, Len Boogly Sharp. I had no idea, about them because I was just confined to what was happening here on the ground. So when Gavin started doing some work with me in a small group, we had a group called Just Six, and he started showing me, Boogly Sharp, Andy Narell, Liam Teague, even Duvan Stewart when he was much younger then, Ray Holman. It's like, all right, cool. There's a life of music outside, and I started getting more and more interested in the instrument. And I actually started just studying, anything. I would go on YouTube. YouTube was now coming into a thing, and Boogly Sharp was one of my biggest idols, right? Still is. He was a mentor to me without him even knowing that, he was a mentor to me. So I used to actually take up all of his recordings and try to transcribe him. I'll transcribe his solos. When we went 2006, we actually traveled to Trinidad, the National Youth Band. And in there, he actually met him in person, and I bought one of his CDs from Phase 2. And I used to transcribe all of his stuff. Anything that he's playing, I want to play. Right? Because, I used to ask him, what does it take to get like him? And they used to say, you have to practice 8 hours a day. So I used to practice 6 to 8 hours a day at that time, 16, 17, 18. Because that's what they said, in order for you to get good, you had to practice. So I used to spend a lot of time listening to a lot of arrangers, Ken Fillmore, Bradley, as I said, Boogly Sharp, Ray Holman. I liked a lot of Andy Narell's work, or his approach, especially towards harmony. A lot of people just sort of just being immersed in everything else. Spent a lot of time with Jit. I loved Jit's music, right? So I used to go and check out, even when he did some work with Lee Chung, Pan Glow, as well. I used to check out the work that he did. I think he was with them for a short time, but when he was with them, Band from Space is the biggest memory of mine. And it's Renegades, it's Lee Chung, Pan Glow's version of it that I remember vividly looking back at 2006, because I was just in 4th form going into 5th form. At the same time I was doing CSEC music. I met people like Marion Byron who got me very interested into programmatic writing music. So Whenever I get the chance, especially at Panorama time, I'll try to see if I can sort of create the images, but using the instrument, which is what I was, trying to do last night with the introduction we had, which is cool, but it may not fit the setting. But there's some years I'm able to, if we're playing a song about Jumbi, I can probably, create this dead scene, funeral scene, the Jumbi sort of comes out of the grave, that kind of thing. But it's because of those kind of influences that I would have gotten years ago that kind of, sort of make me where I'm here, today. But I had no intentions of doing music. Exodus was interesting. So I got a call from the manager in 2022. Yes, sometime around September, October. And listen, I want you to work with us for, we've been having conversations and we see you're part of our vision moving forward, We've been looking at you, the work that you've been doing over the years, not just with Hells Gate, but just generally, as I would have participated in their 2020 Panorama show as well, placed second. So, looking at all of that, the touring that I've been doing, they wanted, to start doing some work with them. I have played with Exodus before, back in 2010, when I was in Trinidad, because I did my bachelor's at UB. There's a bit of familiarity there. The manager didn't quite remember me then, because I really spent a very short time. I went in Saturday, learned the tune the Saturday, Sunday, played the preliminaries, the Thursday, and the finals the Sunday, the semi-finals the Sunday. So it was a very short time, but a lot of the members actually come to Antigua during the summer to work with, bands here. So, we do have some familiarity there. And, a phone call happened, I went down with them in 2023, and we're here in 2025.
Panorama Show, was that the event that happened during COVID you were known for?
It's one of. I think people really got to see me from a different point of view. Most people who do know me in the fraternity know me as an arranger, and they do know me as a player as well. But when you're at home and there's nothing else to do, and all eyes are there, and then you have, all these great people that would have participated in the competition, and then there's a, Andrew White that's in there, there's a Mikel Salcedo that's in there, and many others who went Rose. These are some of the big names, in terms of young guys in the scene. I mean, I would have topped the prelims, topped the semis, and came second in the final. So, everybody's kind of watching. And I think what they got was sort of an insight into, that's my approach. It's a little different from most people. But I try my best to sort of bring out my emotions, my ideas through my music, right? So I kind of, like, what you get is what I would love to give to you. And that's something that, you kind of work on. Especially working with people like Liam Teagan, so that's something that you would have encouraged a lot. You just being sort of organic in the particular space, so they've seen a lot of that. So I think that them seeing that and appreciating that. In the steelpan world, they often say people who are very good soloists often do well as an arranger, as drill master, because they're a bit more intentional with the way that they approach the music. So that, I believe, is a part of it. Growing up in Antigua, you have to learn to do pretty much everything. Right? The drilling concept is a relatively new concept here, though people have been doing it for decades. Somebody has to clean up the music, but it's not a title that has been around for, at least that in my band, for 20 years, I remember around 2009, so I started arranging here in Antigua in 2009, and it was, working with the section leaders and just giving them a very clear vision of my expectations. And when the band comes together, it's me as the arranger, tightening up here. Veron Henry was still very much involved in just sort of guiding me, as he would have passed the reins over to me, unknowingly to me in 2009, because I honestly did not realize that is what was happening. It was like, Khan, what song you want to do? And I recommended a song. Okay, start the flat tune, I'll start the flat tune. Okay, continue. By the time we get to the end of the song, I said, wait, it's me alone doing the song, right? So, but Veron has always been there as a big support. He's one of my biggest mentors. Still, I mean, he works with me now at the department, but I still look up to him, for guidance in many different areas. In terms of the drilling, the influence of drilling and arranging on the full product, I think you being a good driller will help shape the way that you do things like phrasing, the way that you put notes together, you arrange your music. Because, I mean, if I don't think about how it can be played and the effectiveness of it being played, then I can just give a bunch of things. So I know as an arranger what will be easier to drill, what will be easier for people to catch, so that on the output side, that it comes natural. Like Hells Gate is a band that, I mean, if it is nobody drills them, the band will sound good. Because of, again, all of that thought processes, where does the phrases go? What phrases work? What can enhance here? So, being a drill master and still being a arranger kind of helps as well. Now, sometimes it's good to get a different ear on the music, but I think I'm very in tune with what I want. Like, if you look at my score, they're very detailed. I'm expecting this, I want this accented. I would even say something like, take a breath here, like a deep breath, in terms of the player. So it's that detailed because of the expectation of the drilling side from being an arranger. Working with BJ is very interesting, very enlightening experience. And BJ is extremely talented, just a musician generally. He's, in the older folks category, but the way that he processes his ideas is always something, very, how to put it, it's always, from my perspective, it's always good to see, a different perspective. His perspective is, he comes into the yard, which I do, but for Panorama, for the sake of keeping the practices short, I usually, come very clear with the ideas that we want to learn the night. To see him come into the yard and the way that he develops his ideas and what he wants to get done, in his mind, to sit with him and, just work with him on getting those things, getting the clarity that he wants. It's always very, very interesting. I mean, his approach can be very exciting, but if you dig a little deeper, there is actually so much going on musically. So working with him over the past 3 years, interesting because when I first met him, I didn't know what to expect. Sometimes working with some of the older guys is a little difficult, right? The first year when I went there and I introduced myself to him, I said, my name is Khan, and I'm here as a drill master. Let me know how I can assist. And his response was, whatever they hire you to do, just do. So when I say interesting, it was like, I remember that conversation. I was like, well, this is going to be tough, all right? But I can understand from his perspective. It's a new guy, it's a young guy, and I've never worked with him. And I don't think he had I'm not sure, but I don't think he had like a choice in it. So it was just, this guy was just showing on him. But what I appreciated was, after getting to know him the first couple of days, I remember, I think what started the whole relationship was, I think maybe 2 nights in, because I went in and I normally like to sit down and just listen, right? Before I even approach anything, I just want to listen. And then I see him down there trying to kind of process the information, because he sits right in the middle of the band. And people just weren't allowing him to think. So I said, here's what, I come and I run what they give them so far. You go ahead and, gather your thoughts and come back. And, he came back, we started doing a lot of work together. That's 2023. So, we've been bouncing a lot of ideas, him. And again, and that is me now getting a sort of insight in his approaches, right? What is he love to do, what he wants to accomplish. And he's very clear, I want to get some excitement here, so you want to see how best he can bring that out. So, over the past 3 years, it's just sort of building on that relationship. 2024 being better than 2023, 2025 being better than 2024. And I appreciate him for who he is and what he would have been able to accomplish. And even more so now, as now a large band champion arranger. He would have done so many times, especially at the small band, single pan level. But this large band category is the only category he's never won in. So, to see him being able to accomplish that and me be able to assist him, in getting that done. Again, kudos to him. But definitely a very intelligent guy. He loved to walk around and say that he never went to school, he book smart, but I've always encouraged him. I don't look at music or musicians of being any more equipped or any less equipped by not going to school. Your experiences play a very big role. And you being able to sort of just bring out what your intentions is the most important thing for me. At the end of the day, I have a master's degree, and I can write music and I can transcribe. But if it don't sound good on the other side, the majority of people, it doesn't make a world of difference. So, just you being able to understand what is it you want to do, and he's very, very good with that. He's very clear again, I mean, as I said earlier, on his intentions and what he'd love to accomplish. So kudos to him, BJ, if you're watching.
Any standout performances with Exodus?
Every year. This year was different a little bit, because I know for sure this year, BJ was out of his comfort zone. It's not his traditional type of song. So I saw the frustration right in the beginning, because I was there just as they were completing the flat tune. I came back home and I went back. So I knew he was uncomfortable. So it forced him to just have to dig deeper, right? And we saw the benefit of it. This year in particular, it was very special, you know, seeing him cry. He plays strong and everything. But just being able to see the band grow as well, the organization, from an operations level of Panorama, in terms of the playing, the nightly rehearsals. Exodus is a very, very good band. They have a very good management team, excellent management team, and they continue to have this vision. You know, Ainsworth has this vision of taking that band to beyond whatever boundaries, right? That's where they want to take the organization. That's why I love the organization so much. This year in particular, I felt that hunger. Coming out of the win from the National Steelpan Festival in August last year, you felt that, you know, they wanted something. But what I would have seen from my perspective, because I generally don't think about winning first, I think about how do we become the best version of ourselves. Because I can't be half-assing it, for the want of a better term, and expect to win. You know, I need to try and listen to my A game and give you my A game, and then let's have a conversation about winning. So to see that mindset sort of change over the years, and I've had that conversation with them. Now let me focus on being the best version of ourselves. Let me see how we can do better than we did last year. How can we operate in our rehearsals better than we did last year? I remember we came, was it second? The very first year I worked with them, I think it was second, we came in the prelims. At first, I think it was second. I remember I went to rehearsal the next night after the prelims, and everybody kind of just walking around happy, giddy. I was like, guys, you know, we had to do another competition a couple of days later. Like, your points don't carry over. You have to work even harder, because what? Yes, you're trying to top the band that's in first, but all the bands up behind you trying to top you as well. So we can't forget that. So to see that mindset change, I mean, right now there's certain things I don't even have to say. It's just come as an expectation. So working with them, I mean, every year has its moments. I mean, every year sort of building on the next one. And I do see, you know, grand seasons with Exodus going forward. And even for them as an organization, and what they're able to, what they can accomplish. I think Exodus has everything in their power to win as many panoramas as possible. You know, it's a band that started, I think, sometime circa 1981, thereabout. What they've been able to accomplish in their short space of time, it's definitely an accomplishment. You know, it's definitely something that we should celebrate. And when I say we, not just, you know, Exodus or Republic Bank Exodus or the players, I'm talking about the Steelpan community, just worldwide, right? Yes, there are bands with, you know, more Panorama titles and things, but we're talking about an organization that's almost 45 years, thereabout. What they've been able to accomplish, and, you know, if you walk into the space that they would have designed and maintained, you know it's business, right? And not business as usual. The most Spaniards are going to is just a space that is actually, it's a venue, right? You go inside, you can enjoy the atmosphere, you can purchase from the souvenir shop, you can, you know, buy your meals, you have the practice space, you have a functioning youth arm, what do you call them? The School of Pan. So, you know what the organization has been able to accomplish, the amount of world championships and steel band festivals that they would have won. You know, the prowess that that organization has is something that we should just, you know, bands should look at. There's some great bands out there, not negating that fact at all. But we're talking about Exodus. There's a band that I love, you know, it's my second love. Hells Gate is my first, you all know. In terms of steel band, my wife and my family is my first, right? Yeah. You know, Hells Gate is my first love, but I do wish them all the best in the future. There's definitely a lot of success to come, and BJ as well. With Hells Gate, I have a record 10 championships this year. 10 championships. I've arranged for them 13 competitions. This is the 14th competition, but, you know, Panorama is later this week. But I've done 13 competitions with them. We've won 10 times with me as arranger, 1 second and 2 thirds. I've done, you know, things like, you know, there's some internal competitions on island, like Muzaf Pan would have won that competition with them. as well. But most of the work I do, especially now, outside of preparing the stage side for major performances and grooming the next generation of arrangers and drill masters, it's a Panorama time. The band has 23 titles, 10 of those are with me. Nice. Yeah, so I'm the most prolific arranger in the band's history, as of now. And I'm only 35. The one that I hold dearest to me is the one that we didn't win Panorama with. We came third that year, second runner-up. There's a song called Nobody Can Run Me, which is a song that kind of redefined like me. It's, you know, a lot of people outside started getting to know me because of that arrangement back in 2014. We didn't win the competition that year. That year, there's a lot of things that we did wrong on the night of the show. You know, leading up to the competition, a lot of things went well. For those people who do Panorama a lot, it's not just having good music, but everything sort of fit into place, right? Even on the night of the show, just the mindset of the players have to be in the right place. But that is an arrangement, and that is still talked about today, you know, some 11 years later, right? There are some, throughout the years, I've had some iconic arrangements and movements for different reasons. So one of the things people like about my style is the ability to create the image through the sound, right? So there was a year that we did a song called Vivian Richards, the cricketer. It was about him and his prowess, you know, as a cricketer. And I was able to sort of create all the cricket themes, you know. So when you listen to the song, you feel like you're watching cricket. You know, you're hearing a guy knock a 6, he knock a 4. So we were able to do that. There was a year we did a song called Jumbi, right? And again, I made mention earlier about sort of just raising that dead. Jumbi here, the song was talking about a Jumbi that came about because one of the funeral homes did not bury the dead properly, right? So, you know, we're able to kind of play on those themes. Another one would have been 2023 for us when we were trying to send a very, very clear message to the association, you know, and the fraternity. They didn't understand why we were doing what we were doing, right? That year for me is very, very important in just what we're able to accomplish as an organization. I mean, you look outside, on average, we get like 160, 170 people in the yard, and they come here not because, we generally don't speak about winning. It's not a conversation that happens very often because, everybody that play here play for the love of it, so they have to be able to enjoy the environment that they're playing in. That is the thought that was passed on to me. You know, that's how I was nurtured, the values that I was nurtured by coming in here, and then, you know, I have to pass it on to that next generation. So we continue to work along those lines to see how we can get young people playing. They could be outside doing the world of social ills, you know, robbing people, you know, doing whatever crime or whatever. But they're here, you know, all 100 and something of them here to practicing. They know that we have a limit on the amount of people, and they still come, you know, and share pans every night because they love to be here. And we don't want to kill that for anybody. You know, they should come here. They should want to feel. They should feel like I need to put in the work to be able to earn my position. And that is what that's the mindset we want to teach. You know, here, giving people opportunities. We have quite a bit of them here. This year, my musical team outside of me is about 6 persons. All of them are under the age of 22, 23, thereabouts. I think one of them is like 25. He's the more seasoned one. But working with them, not just teaching them about drilling, but give them sort of understanding about arranging, the approach towards running the group, right? If you've worked with me, you know that I like a disciplined practice. So when you knock the pan, I don't want to hear no extra playing or anything. Because I always think about, what about the people who get annoyed by the extra thing, and the people who want to hear? I can't operate within the noise. So listen, let me just keep it thing. Everybody learn. We have very efficient practices and we move on. So they're learning all of that, right? And because of that now, they do a lot of the operations throughout the year as well. So the only competition I arrange for Hells Gate now is the Panorama. All of the other competitions, they're the ones that take up that responsibility. And out of it, we have people that are arranging for bands overseas. Some of them have gone on and arranged for other bands in Antigua. Like Zara Lake used to work here. Marisha Potter, who's the captain of Panache, used to work here as my drill master at one point in time. Kareem King is my best friend. He spent a lot of years drilling here. He actually did some work here this year as well. But they're, in other bands, doing the work, arranging for school Panorama, doing the Panorama, and other, competitions around Ireland. And that's what, we're trying to do, to see how we can add our value to not just the community here in Antigua and Barbuda, but the wider community across the world.
You talked about being able to bring to life, a scene, right? How did you develop that skill?
It was really through CSEC music. When I met Mario and Byron, and I have to call the name because it's at that point, I can't remember vividly. We were going through what they call the set works for the CSEC, as a part of the CSEC syllabus. We did something called Pictures at an Exhibition by Mazowski and Modest Mazowski, right? And when you're doing it, what I found amazing, so they're doing the Bidlow, I think that's the name of it, and it was this big sort of ox passing, and as it approached you, you hear the crescendo as it, it went past you, you got the decrescendo, and how they were able to kind of bring it to life. So you can imagine the heavy walking of that ox. So how they were able to use the music to do that. And there's a bunch of them that they did. I remember there's something about some garden gnome, how they were able to kind of create the picture. So I can listen to the music and see the imagery. And I just always loved it. So for me, it was trying to see now, where Panorama is concerned, where steel band is concerned, how do I bring that to Panorama without it being sort of disruptive of the mind? Because sometimes when we think about Panorama, we're not thinking along the extremely creative side. We want the jam, we want a nice little run and a little flair. So over the years, what I've been able to do is sort of marry the two, right? Try to see how I can marry, just giving you what you want and what I would be happy about as a creative, right? And I feel like you have to kind of do that in order to be not just successful, but to want to stay as a part of the craft, right? Because it's easy to kind of lose yourself into what people want. But I consider myself a true creative. And I want the music that I put out there is what I intend to put out. That when I hear it 5, 10 years down the line, I was like, yeah, I like that. That was good. Even though you would have seen the development over the years, I can look back and be like, yo, that was pretty impressive. So there's a passion behind it that fuels you to want to do better the next time around. All right, so for me, I have to marry that too. And it's because of that. It really started there. Pictures at an exhibition, at CSEC level, just being exposed to that. I remember being in the class, I was like, how are they able to do this? This don't make sense. Like, you might be talking about summer random, what kind of thing about football. And like creating the scene in the football, maybe the people shouting and the chants and the ball hitting the back of the net and how we can use percussion to create those kind of things. That get me real excited. Like to think about it, like how can I actually do this?
So where would we see that in your arrangement this year?
In quite a bit of places. So what I did was to try to play on two main themes. So the song is a sort of satirical look on the word crazy, or the crazy man, a madman. But what it says is that because I didn't do what they told me to do, they called me crazy. Well, here's what. Well, call me crazy, that's fine, but who the people love, is the crazy man. Who make them jump up is the crazy man. That's what it is. So to play on that crazy theme, it was to try to do, we had some areas in there where we played on the, I remember when I lost my mind, the Nas Barkley. But under that, it's still keeping the main theme from the song. And then going into the minor, which we're approaching here. Right here was to create that very unsettling kind of thing. In the parts of the song, and in the minor it happens too, there's always this conversation, right, between high pans and low pans. So I remember growing up seeing the crazy men, the people that talk to themselves. So it's the conversation that you're having with yourself, right? So you see that happening a lot here, where it's like, almost like you're talking to your two consciences, hey. So it happens. It actually will come up right here, so you'll be able to hear it. So I was able to kind of do that throughout the entire song. There's always a conversation between the two, and a lot of times it's bam-ba-dam, 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 bam-ba-dam. That is where it is, right? It's a kind of, and it's the scream, right? So a lot of that happens inside of the song to kind of bring that imagery together. And you know, through our presentation on stage, we were able to make it a little clearer as well. But that's really a lot of areas you're going to hear some screams inside it by using very dissonant notes up in the top, by having the very unsettling, uneven phrases in the bottom, right? And there's sometimes when it's just very abrupt, you know, changes. It's to kind of depict that, you know, when you're crazy, you can't predict what happens next. It kind of just happens. Right? And then outside of all that, you kind of just make the music enjoyable for people to listen to.
In terms of singing the parts, I noticed you did that at Exodus. I saw that here at the Panyard tonight. Yeah. Why is that effective?
I can't say where I've seen it before, but I can imagine that it's not new. I grew up always having to sing everything in my head before I can play it effectively. And the mindset behind that is, I mean, for you to play something, you gotta know what it sounds like here. Now, for a lot of people, they don't know how to do the correlation. They kind of just, somebody hit a note, they just hit a note. What I've been doing over the years, and Hells Gate has perfected it, if you notice, I can actually just stand up, say some notes, say a phrase, and everybody plays it, right? Because they would have done it so well over the years. The mindset is that in order for you to play it effectively, you gotta know what it sounds like. And sound like it's not just coming to the ear, but what is going on inside of your head. So, yeah, I give you some notes, or you see somebody playing something, but the notes don't make any sense if you don't understand the context. What is the phrase? You know, what comes before what? And I can tell you B, C, C sharp, D. How do you play that? There's many ways that you can play that. How do you understand that in the context of the time, right? Does it fall on the beat, just after the beat, on the end of the beat, you know? So people need to understand that here. And what it does, it also helps us remember the music, because now we have it here, as opposed to just focusing on muscle memory. So when you're not in the yard, you can re-sing the phrases in your head. When you come back to the practice the next time, you can just go in and you have the phrases, then you go and work it out. And what we've seen over the years is that we've created better musicians because of it, but they're much more in tuned orally to what they're doing. Again, I can walk into the yard and teach an entire section and nobody even touched the pan. This note, this note, this note, this is the phrase, repeat it again, everybody start playing. Right? So that is really the mindset.
What's next for you? What projects? Well, anything you'd like to share?
I do have some traveling that should be coming up. I should be at Carry Festival. I'm currently on sick leave, but spend some time at Carry Festival. But from an administrative level, I should be doing a show and a workshop there in Barbados. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm supposed to be doing Japan in September. There's some things at the end of the year that I'm looking forward to, but certainly I'm booked up to go to Trinidad next year for Carnival. We had to go Exodus, we had to go and hold on to that crown, right? Hold on to that title. But coming out of the next couple of months, I hope to start working on putting out some new music. I've been sitting now on probably enough music for 2 or 3 albums, to be honest. I just time, you know, to get up and do it. And then, you know, to be in the headspace, because sometimes you have music and you love the music, you play it, and then when it's time to think about the album, you kind of get overwhelmed. Is this what I really want to put outside? Is this what I want, you know? So it's to try to see how I can refine that. My wife has given me a deadline of having at least a single out by the 22nd of December. That's her birthday. So I need to fulfill that. So that is what I'll be working on over the next couple of months. Just kind of see if I can spend a bit more time with my instrument. I've not neglected it, but I just haven't had the time, really. You know, just get up and go, and then reaching home at 10, 11 o'clock in the night. And I have to, in that period of time, carve out time for my family, especially my 2 girls, you know, my wife. So it's to see if I can spend a bit more time. So over the next couple of months, especially because of doctor's orders, I'm going to have to take some me time, some more me time. So I'll be cutting some things out of my schedule, and I'll be playing a bit more, you know, hopefully. That's the plan. Yeah.